Read verses 13 through 23. If you can stand while we're reading that, that's cool in the gang. If not, that's still cool in the gang. If you're there, say there. There. If not, you'll just have to catch up next week. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon David from that day forward. And Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. Now the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and a harmful spirit from the Lord tormented him. And Saul's servants said to him, "Behold, now a harmful spirit from God is tormenting you. Let our Lord now command your servants who are before you to seek out a man who is skillful in playing the lyre, the harp. And when the harmful spirit from God is upon you, he will play it, and you will be well." So Saul said to his servants, "Provide for me a man who can play well, and bring him to me." One of the young men answered, "Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, who is skilled in playing, a man of valor, a man of war, prudent in speech, and a man of good presence, and the Lord is with him." Therefore Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, "Send me David your son, who is with the sheep." And Jesse took a donkey laden with bread and a skin of wine and a young goat, and sent them by David his son to Saul. And David came to Saul and entered his service, and Saul loved him greatly, and he became his armor bearer. And Saul sent to Jesse, saying, "Let David remain in my service, for he has found favor in my sight." And whenever a harmful spirit from God was upon Saul, David took the lyre and played it with his hand. So Saul was refreshed as well, and was well, and the harmful spirit departed from him. You may be seated. On your way down. Just shout, "Embrace the path." Embrace the path. Embrace the path. We've been in Samuel for a few weeks. I think we started Samuel about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. And I titled last week's message, "Embrace the Past." So I figured where we are is still connected to last week's message. I won't even try to do a recap of last week. So if you want to go online on YouTube, you can catch that. I think it'd be very beneficial for you. But we ended at verse 13 last week. Is it okay if I teach this morning? We done prayed and we hollered. If you came in late, I'm sorry. We already did the war cry and all of that other stuff, okay, at the beginning. So you may not get that at the end today. But I want to make sure that we get what we need out of this text, okay? Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him. Him is David in the midst of his brothers. David was the 8th son of Jesse. God had sent Samuel down to anoint the next king. And anointing was an official way to appoint someone to a specific role or title in the Israel context. And he anointed him to be the next king. And it's interesting to me that it doesn't mention that Samuel ever told David what he was being anointed for. Think about that. We have no text, we have nothing that ever mentions that David really knew what he was being anointed for. So he knew he had purpose, he knew it was something special. So when the priest and the judge comes down to your house and creates a sacrifice and calls you out of the field, David was a shepherd, called him out the field and anoints him and then leaves, but doesn't tell him what it is. He knows it's something special. He just does not know what it is. And we can also use context clues. If we went forward a couple of chapters, we could find out that his brothers didn't know what his call was either. Okay, because they still talked about him and they still messed with him and picked with him as little bro. You know how y'all do. Just like with my daughter and son, my daughter's always picking on him. Okay, that's still little bro. Now, if she knew that he was going to be a king, you wouldn't mess with him, right? You try to have him on the team, right? So they still mess with him. So using that context clues again, it says that they didn't even know. So I was thinking about that, and I mentioned this before. You may have heard it before. That it's not meant for everybody to know what God is doing in your life. Not everything that God shows you is meant for everybody to know, even people close to you. We have no record that Samuel told Jesse, which was David's dad, what he was anointing him for. No record that Samuel told his brothers or David what he was anointed for. So it suggests to me that some things need to just stay on the inside of us. And I know it's about that time now. We're on our 2020 mode, right? We thinking about 2020, and because we're on social media so much, we're ready to get on social media and tell everybody everything God done showed you. Yeah, next year I'm starting this shelter. Next year we're doing this. Next year I'm giving away all my money to the poor. Y'all gonna do that next year? Whatever it is that God showed you, you start thinking about it, and you're excited about what God wants to do. You should be excited about what God has shown you. There should be some level of excitement if God has shown you and given you a glimpse of what he wants you to do. There should be excitement, but not everybody will be excited. That's why you don't need to tell everybody. I've realized this since I've been in ministry, that guess what? Nobody can put a roadblock in a road that they don't even know you're traveling on. Okay, Pastor, I don't get that. What does that mean? That means that if you don't tell them what you believe, they can't help you not believe it. It's simple. If you don't tell them your plans, they can't help hinder your plan. Well, the people in my life, they would never hinder your plan. How many times have you shared something with somebody that was like, you know what, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That seems a little bit too big for you. I know from what you're talking about, I think you're going to need $1 million to get that done, and you're only making $9 an hour. I don't know about that, and it makes me question. I wonder how many people in the room right now are not pursuing the thing that God has given you a glimpse of because somebody else has talked you out of it. I wonder how many people in the room right now, you have not quit your job and started the business because somebody else talked you out of it. I wonder if you have not moved forward in a relationship that God has given you. Somebody say that God has given you. I wonder how many of you have not moved forward because somebody else has talked you out of it. Somebody else who don't want you to be happy in a relationship because they ain't happy. Be careful who you share things with, and be careful who you take advice from. Because people will tell you, hey, history said that somebody like you can't accomplish nothing like that. I wonder, in my spiritual imagination, if David's brothers had knew that David was anointed king, would they have encouraged him or discouraged him? I wonder, sis, if they would have said, hey, little bro, I heard that you've been anointed for the next king, and I know that it's hard for you to believe because you're nothing but a shepherd boy, but we serve a God who is able to take nothing and make it something. I wonder if they would have said, hey, be encouraged. Be encouraged. God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you ask or think. I wonder if they would have encouraged him, or I wonder if they'd have went to him and said, you ain't nothing but a little shepherd boy. You ain't got no experience. You ain't even never visited the Capitol. You ain't never visited the castle. You don't know nobody way up there. You don't know no vice presidents. You don't know no kings. You don't know no queens, because history says that the people who take over the throne are usually the king's son. History says that if he doesn't have a son, then maybe it's the man that marries his daughter. But you don't even know the daughter, so how you gonna marry the daughter? Or maybe if he doesn't have a son, maybe he doesn't have a daughter, but then guess what? Maybe his general will take over, or somebody on the inner cabinet. But you have nothing that says that you could possibly find yourself being the next king. History said that you can't do it. I wonder how many of you believe history over God. I serve a God that writes his own history, and he can start and end whenever he gets ready. So I need you to stop reading history books that's not written by God. Because the Bible, the history book, tells me that God can take a murderer and use him to do some amazing things. God can look at somebody and say, God can use a hooker. Now I know if God can use a hooker, he can use me. He's used liars, he's used adulterers. So I don't care what history says. I don't look at history to see if God is able to do what he said that he would do. I look at God. God writes his own history book. He's not limited by what happened in the past. because he can make the future be whatever he wants it to be. So at the end of verse 13 it says, and Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. So Samuel went back to the place he called home. But where's David? Where's David? When we move over to the next couple of verses, we're shifting to a different scene where Saul is. We do know one thing for sure. There was a span of time between verse 13 and verse 17 when he actually gets into the castle. But yet, Carlos, even though he gets to the castle, guess what? He's still not the king. I gotta let somebody know this. David, when he was anointed, historians, theologians say that he was between the ages of 10 and 15 years old. Think about this. Do you know how old David was when he actually became king? He was 30. Wow. So there's a possibility that he was 10 when he was anointed, but didn't reach the place that God told him until he was 30. How many years is that for my math scholars? 20. So at the most it was 20, at the least it was what? 15 for those who know the old school math, because the new math is just stuff, okay? 20 years at the most, 15 years. Some of you mad at God because you've been waiting a year. Some of you mad at God because God has not made your business $1 million business yet, and you just started the doggone thing in January. You just got the vision in 2018, and you're like, God, where are you? I can't believe you forsaken your only begotten, you're not the only son, first of all, your only begotten daughter, okay? You've already forsaken your son, but I'm your only begotten daughter. Why would you? God is like, have you went back through the Bible? There are some people that have waited 50, 60, 70 years for God to do what he said he would do. And it didn't take that long because God wasn't powerful. It didn't take that long because God was not capable or God was not able, but he was still preparing them. Yeah. You may think you're ready, but if you're not there yet, you're not. Yeah. You may think, I know I'm ready. Shoot, I got everything lined up. You have no idea the stuff that's on a whole nother level. Listen, let me tell you something. Those 15 or 20 years that David was being prepared to take the throne, he went through hell of all hell. Hiding in caves, attempting to be killed by his boss. Now, some of y'all right now, what would you do if your boss tried to kill you? Yeah, David's boss tried to kill him on multiple occasions. David had to hide. He had to leave his home and leave his family. Times where he didn't have food, where he didn't have shelter. And guess what? That was all a part of the past. Can you embrace the past? That's what I've really been, that's all I've been teaching on these past 2 weeks. The story is just a corroboration, a collaboration of what I'm trying to get you to see, that we have no idea what the path is, but we just got to trust God. That's the embrace part. When we defined the word embrace last week, it meant to receive willingly and what? Does anybody else remember the other word? Enthusiastically for the one person who pays attention to me on Sunday morning and doesn't Snapchat in the middle of service, okay? Willingly and enthusiastically. You get to that point when you trust God. When you trust God that the plan that he's created, that the path that he's creating, it makes sense. I told you last week that David had so many it makes sense moments, and you're going to have the same thing. You're going to get to different spots, different pit stops, different exit signs, different gas stations where you're going to look back and say, you know what? It makes sense now. It makes sense why God allowed that last relationship that I thought we were going to get married break up. It makes sense now. It makes sense the fact that I lost that job and I lost this and I lost that, but now when I'm gaining all this stuff that I have room to maintain, it now makes sense. All the hell that I went through, one day David was going to find out that it all made sense. Look up to heaven and say, God, I know it's going to make sense. But be truthful, it's stupid now. but one day it's going to make sense. We learn in verse 1. So now the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul. Verse 14. For those who haven't been here, who was Saul? Saul was the king of Israel. He was the first king, okay? But now he's at a place where he's been rejected by God. Why? Well, people who have been here. Why was Saul rejected? Because of his disobedience. Every week, God seems to keep bringing me back to this place so that you will know that without obeying God, you cannot become who he wants you to be. Yeah. Saul tried to do something his own way. I won't go back. You can go back to chapter 13 and read it for yourself. But God told him to do something a specific way. He decided to do it his own way. At that moment, it appeared to be a good idea. But like I said before, every good idea is not a God idea. So it's not about creating a good idea. It's not about creating a good plan. It's not about creating a good path, but it's about getting a God idea. It's about getting a God plan. It's about being on the God path, because he does not bless what he has not given you to do. So if you want to get to the place where you're walking in your purpose and able to stay walking in your purpose, you're going to have to do it God's way, or else be prepared to fail. Thank you, Dallas, for cheering and praising God for that lesson. You got to obey. You got to obey. Listen, this is going to sound mean. But some of you need to stop throwing God's promises back in his face and you won't obey him. Woo! Some of you need to really just stop praying to God. Oh my God, this pastor told me to stop praying, and then later on he's going to talk about prayer. But God says, I don't want none of that until you're willing to obey me. Huh? Imagine, for those who are parents, or one day you will be parents, imagine your son telling you how awesome you are, how amazing you are, yet that little nigga won't go and wash the dishes. Imagine that. Do you really care about receiving the praises of your child that won't do their homework? You better get in there and clean that room. I'm tired of saying clean your room. But I don't want to hear you telling me, Daddy, you're such a good daddy. I know I am. Go clean that room. I don't need you to tell me I'm a good daddy. I need you to go clean that room. Clean your room and then come tell me how good I am, okay? Clean your room and then come acknowledge me as a great provider. Clean your room. Don't ask me for no ice cream and you ain't did your homework yet. It makes sense now, don't it? It sounds different now. Oh man, you got a kid. Your kid talking about, can you take me to get a slushie? Have you done your homework? No. Do you plan on doing it? No. But you want me to put some clothes on, go out and get you a slushie? Hold on. You want some Jordans. You want some Jordans and you got F's on your report card? Mama and Dad, y'all better stop buying your kids all this expensive stuff and they can't even pass their classes. What's wrong with you? You're going to have to earn this. You will wear these Pro Wings with your F's. That's what you're going to get. Now, how many of you will bless your kids with some $200 Jordans for Christmas and they got F's on their report card for the semester? Raise your hand. God, how many of your children up in here asking for hard houses, cars, husbands, and wives, and promotions, and raises, and all this other natural stuff, but they won't live for you Monday through Saturday? Point them out, God. He just pointed you out over there, right there in the back in the corner over there. Over here, you up there in the balcony, he pointed you out. Think about it though. We begging God for all this stuff, but we want to obey him. God is like, I done gave you some stuff to do. And now some of you, it ain't even about sinning. Let me talk to the person. Some of you is sinning, okay? Some of you are in sin right now, but yet you're still asking for the blessings of God. We covered that. Let me talk to the person who's attempting to live right, yet you can still be in a state of obedience because you're not walking in the purpose that God has given you. God told some of you to start the Bible study at work, but you giving all these reasons why not. They ain't gonna come. They ain't gonna listen to me. God did not tell you to think about the end. He told you to start the Bible study. God been telling some of y'all to go on Facebook Live, go on Instagram Live, start you a YouTube page, get you a website, start recording videos, doing Bible studies, and you haven't done it yet. Guess what? You are are walking and living in disobedience right now. Disobedience is not just connected to some fornication, adultery, and getting drunk. So stop thinking you all high and mighty. You ain't even listening to God all the way. Shaking your head at somebody else. Coming up in here smelling like weed. Then you praising God, just filthy. Okay, you smell good, but you ain't did what God told you to do. He done told you to join the praise team, you still sitting out there. He done told you to get on the usher team, you still sitting out there. He done told you to join the children's ministry, you still getting out there. He done told you to write this plan, go take it to pastor and say, Pastor, this is what God called me to do, you still sitting out there. You ain't being obedient. If you want God to bless you, you're going to have to obey. He says, I don't want your sacrifice until you obey me. All right? Y'all want to talk about, look at your neighbor and say, your blessing is on the way. Just praise him for it. Yeah, the money's about to fall. In 7 days, if you run around 7 times, the Jericho wall, it's going to come, everything is about, look at somebody say, everything about to come down, everything's about to come down. Now you can't say, I didn't tell you your blessing is on the way. Now let's get back to the word of God. So Saul, it says the Spirit of the Lord departed from him, a horrible spirit came and did what? It tormented him. Again, David isn't in the castle. Where's David, y'all? He's back in the field. The reason why God won't show some of you a glimpse of tomorrow is because you won't stay in the field. You won't stay in the field with your impatient self. If he showed you the throne that he was going to put you on, they'd be like, David, you coming to work tomorrow? What? Here, take this. You can have all this shepherd stuff. Here's my staff. Here's all this stinky stuff. I'm about to go take a shower. I'm about to go get my hair cut. I'm about to go buy some Gucci shoes. And I'm about to go sit at the front of the castle and knock on the door and say, God told me I'm next. Put me at the table. Or else. That's why God can't show some of y'all sitting there like, man, God won't show me nothing, because he knows you can't handle it right now. You'll act all funny. You'll start shedding people, stop talking to people. Some of you, if he showed you where you was going, you'd leave the Link Church right now and go join some 10,000 member church trying to run up on the pastor's office about, I want to talk to the pastor. Getting tackled after church because he's trying to get to the first lady at the mega church. That's why he won't show some of y'all, because this is your field. This is where he's going to prepare you, so when he does send you to a 10,000 member church, you can handle it when you get there. Because there's some different devils on the level that you're trying to get to. Listen, some of you, the place you want to get to, you wouldn't even be able to handle the people that hate you when you get there. I promise you, you have no idea the hate that comes to people who are celebrities. You have no idea the hate that comes from people who have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million businesses. Some of you run away right now at the first time somebody went on Facebook and said, you ugly. You wouldn't know what to do if 1,000 people was on social media talking about, ew, your dress was horrific. 1,000 people. You ready to cut somebody out when one person tell you your dress was ugly. Can you imagine 1,000 people who ain't never met you talking about you? You gotta stay in the field. Stay in the field. Stay in the field. What happens next in the story? Because of an evil spirit, somebody comes out of nowhere, buddy, and says, hey, you know what you need to do? You need to find somebody who's anointed and gifted to play the harp. So when that evil spirit from God comes upon you, then he can play the harp, and then the evil spirit will leave. And then somebody else comes out. Over here, they ear hustling over there. Somebody else hears it and says, you know what? That's a good idea. And as a matter of fact, I know somebody. There's this dude named Jesse. He can do that. And then he starts selling it. What does he say? For those who still got your Bibles open, what does he say? He says, man, I know this dude named, he doesn't just say, I know this dude named Jesse who can play the harp, but he starts really selling it. He's like, man, he can play well. He's anointed. He's skillful. He's a man of valor. He's a man of war. He can talk real good. cute, he's handsome, and guess what? God is with him. I wonder though, while David was in the field, if he was like some of us wondering, God, what's up?
Yeah.
I was anointed by the priest, the prophet, and the judge, but I'm still out here in this field with these sheep. Like, what's going on? What's taking you so long? And then all along, God is working in the background. God was moving regardless of the fact that David had no idea what was going on. God was preparing a king in the field while he was creating a need in the castle. Some of you are frustrated because you feel like you're stuck in the field and God is not doing anything, but God is moving even though you can't see it. God is working even though it's behind the scenes. He's preparing you to reach the throne while he's creating a need to get you to the throne. Be patient. Wait in the field. It's for your good. It's for your good. While he was waiting, God was up there preparing the need. There's a couple things that I can get out of these next few verses. I'm still in my introduction. Is that okay? but can I give you a few things that jump out to me from these next few verses at 18? One, first of all, before I give you that, so they called David. Saul said, go get him, and that's cool. So one thing I got out of that verse is that David made it into the castle through the side door. David made it into the castle through the side door. He didn't go knock on the front door and say, hey, I'm anointed, I'm the next king. Because for all we know, at that point, he didn't even know he was going to be the next king. But he made it through the side door. He didn't make it through some leadership position. He didn't make his way up the ladder by getting some type of job, cutting the grass and then rising up. He didn't come right in as this second in command, but he came in as just a musician. I look at that and say, David made it through the side door. And I think too many of us in this building right now, we're so focused on getting into our proverbial castle through the front door. And God is like, that's not the only way in. You're so focused that this is the only way that I can reach it. I gotta have a PhD. I gotta have 3 people who are already near. I gotta have these exact things. And without this, I can't make it. But God says, I can get you in through the chimney. I can get you in through the basement. I can get you in through the windows, the front window, the back window, the side window. All you got to do is just prepare yourself in the field. Yes. God says, let me focus on getting you in the door. And he wants somebody in here to say, stop trying to figure it out. Yeah. That's why some of you crazy right now. Some of you are driving yourselves loony because you're trying to figure out how God is going to do it. God is saying, you don't even have to worry about that. I would be so upset if my daughter was worried and losing sleep over how the lights was going to stay on in my house. That is not your business. You live here, but it's not your business how I keep the lights on. All you gotta do is come home, get in the bed, wake up, leave, and do it all again. Just do what I say and you can stay in the house. If you do what I say, you can stay in the house and you don't have to worry about the refrigerator being full. You don't have to worry about how the lights going to stay on. You don't have to worry about if we're going to have heat when it's cold or air when it's... All you got to do is do what I say do. And all this other stuff is covered. What does that sound like? Seek ye first the kingdom of God. And all these things shall be provided for you. So I think some of you, God is saying, stop being so doggone nosy. Get your nose out of my business. That's God, quote unquote. Get your nose out of my business. Your job is to just stay keeping them sheep fed and stay walking them sheep and stay protecting those sheep. That's your job, wherever your field is. It does not matter that you've been anointed. It does not matter that you've been gifted. Keep doing what you're doing right now until God makes the way. Not you make the way. So David, he made it into the castle through the side door. Some of us want a title so bad because we feel like we needed to arrive. But you don't need a title, you just need God. Second thing that I get out of those few verses at the end is that God made it happen. And some of you need to know that. God made it happen. God was working. David didn't have to get in front of nobody on his own and say, hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. See me here. This is my resume. I want you to show you what I'm capable of doing. This is what I'm doing. I'm not talking about a job right now. I'm talking about your purpose. Okay? So don't go back and be like, shoot, I ain't even got to apply for the job. God is going to just make you wait. No, if you ain't got no job and you need a job, you need to put an application in, okay? That's not faith, that's stupidity, okay? Not saying that God won't do it, but there's still a part on that. But when it comes to our spiritual purpose, I don't have to force my way in. David didn't have to force his way into the throne at any point during those 15 to 20 years. God put him closer to the throne every time that he got ready. God set it up. Watch this, stay here. So David couldn't get any credit. And I believe that some of us in the room now, we are still where we are because we keep putting ourselves in the position that if he blesses us to reach the place that he showed us he'll take us, that we can get the credit out of. Some of you will be able to say that I did it. But I believe that some of you and most of you have purposes on your life that God wants you to be able to say, I have no idea. Yes. I did work, I did prepare, but I promise you, I have no idea how I stood apart when I applied for that contract. I have no idea how I stood apart when I opened the business that there were already thousands of all across this country. I have no idea how I did it. All I can say is God was with me. All I can say that I was obedient to God. All I can say that I did everything that he told me to do. I tried to live right. I tried my best to be a praying person. I tried my best to be a giver. I tried my best to be a person that reflects who he is. I just tried my best to please God. That's the only thing that I can think of because I know about 20 people that's better than me. I know about 20 people that's smarter than me. I know about 20 people that's wiser than me. But I have no idea why God has propelled me past them. All I can say that God is good all the time and that all the time God is good. I don't know why he chose me. I don't know why he anointed me. I don't know why he blessed me. I don't know why he favored me. All I can do is lift my hands in the sanctuary and say, God, I thank you for choosing me. I thank you for blessing me. I don't know why he chose me. I think that's where God wants us to be. Where we can stand on the platform in the stage and say, I have no idea how I got here. All I did was do what God told me to do and I'm here. God made it happen. So again, stop stressing about how it's going to play out and just know that God is going to make it happen. I'm so glad that I don't have to rely on myself to get to where God wants me to be. All I got to do is keep preparing. That's it, Carlos. That's all I got to do is keep preparing. Next thing that I saw in here, that God uses people to open doors for you. Okay, this is a mindset change that we need to change in the church right here. Because a lot of us super saved. Are you super? Look at your neighbor and say, you look super saved. super duper saved. You know, one of our phrases is, I don't need nobody but Jesus. I don't need nobody but Jesus. Let me break that super saved, super duper saved. Because I don't need nobody but Jesus. It's not an accurate depiction of how God works. Right. That's not how God works. Most of the people who say that, they ain't never really studied the Bible. Because throughout the entire Bible, God has used people. God has only came down one time and did it for himself, and that was with Jesus, and that was coming to die on the cross. Everything else, God has always used other people. From the beginning. When we look at Moses, when the children of Israel got delivered, he used somebody. God could have came down himself if he wanted to, but he chose to use somebody. When Moses died, and he needed somebody to get the children of Israel, he didn't come down himself and do it. What did he do? He sent Joshua. He got Joshua and said, you next. Take the people in there. Okay? Now, Saul is about to be rejected, and what is God doing? God is not coming down saying, hey, I'm going to be the king on the throne again. What is he doing? He's raising up somebody. He's using David again. He sent prophets in the book of Judges. He had judges that stand up and rise up to lead the people in war and to judge the people and make sure they were following the principles of God. And then when Jesus came to die, what did he do? He prepared 12 people so that when he left, 12 men would go and prepare 1,000 so that they would go around the world. He created pastors, prophets, apostles, evangelists, what? For the upbuilding of the church. He has always used people. So if you have that mindset that I don't need nobody but Jesus, it does not go along with the way God works. God used somebody in that castle to open the door for David to go in, okay? So throw that mindset away. But don't get it twisted again. God opened the door, but David was prepared to walk in. I'm finally at my sermon. How much time I got left? Okay. Can I get 5 minutes? Y'all give me 5 more minutes? David was prepared to walk in the door that was open for him. And that's why that man was able to say to Saul, there's a son of Jesse, that's verse 18, the Bethlehemite, who is skillful in playing, man of valor, man of war, prudent in speech, and a man of good presence, and the Lord is with you. I want to give you 3 points. I'm sorry that my introduction was so long, but I want to give you 3 points real quick, and I'm going to labor on each one of them on what we need to do while we're still in the field, okay? Because the field is part of your path. Embrace it. It may not be time for you to come out the field yet, but what do we need to do based on these things that this man was able to present to Saul about David? 1, perfect your skills and gifts. Write this down. I'm trying to help you get ready. I'm trying to help you get ready for the capsule, get ready for the next thing. What you have to do, number 1, is perfect your skills and gifts. I know you can't wait to get there, but you got to be prepared to thrive when you get there. And some of you, you're not there yet because you're not qualified and capable to thrive yet. Your skills and your gifts have not been cultivated. They have not been perfected yet. God does not open doors until you're actually ready, not when you think you're ready. Okay, so you do have to cultivate your gifts. We talked about last week that before David went up against the giant, he was already skilled with using his what? His sling. If David had not spent hours and hours and hours and hours of playing the harp, guess what? He would not have been recommended in this particular case with Saul. God would not have been able to set that up if David was not skilled. And the only way you become skilled is by investing time in perfecting your craft. So some of you may not have arrived yet, is because you may not have perfected your craft. You're good at what you do. Let me talk to my business people. Do I got any entrepreneurs in here or planned entrepreneurs in here? You're not an entrepreneur, but you want to be, raise your hand real quick. Raise your hand, okay? Listen, some of us, we have a great product, okay? But you got to have more than a great product to have a successful business. Why? Because you got to you got to know how to market. You got to know how to use social media from a marketing perspective. So what does that mean? That means now you got to go learn something about marketing. Well, I can just hire somebody. No, you don't have enough money. You think you do, but wait till you start quoting them prices. And that man start telling you $5.99 a month. Okay? So what's your alternative? Go take a class on marketing. I'm not talking about a college class. It may be something online for $1.99. Okay? Take something online that teaches you about the basic 101 of marketing. Okay? Now you need to learn something about accounting, okay? You need to at least know how to use an Excel spreadsheet so you can put your finances and stuff in there. Okay? Why do I need to do that? Because you are a for-profit business. You gotta file that stuff. I gotta file that for a bit. That's what I'm talking about. That's why he can't make you $1 million business overnight, because the IRS will come take it all because you ain't even tracking nothing. You see why you're not ready now? You see why you're still in the field? And what happens if everybody go online and you got your product online and 1,000 people overnight go buy it and you ain't got but 75 pieces? How you gonna get the other 925? You're not ready. Perfect your skills. Go learn what it really takes to run the business. I don't know whether God is calling you to ministry or whatever it is to be a manager of your department, to be whatever your aspiration is that you know that God has given you. Go prepare it so somebody in the back office is able to say, yeah, Tasha's ready, okay? She's gifted, she's talented, she's studied, she talks well, okay? Her shoes cost $300, and you know you can't be a vice president at this company without $300 shoes, okay? You need somebody else to be able to go and talk on your behalf. What can they say about you right now? Yeah. Okay? So you got to do what, number one? Perfect your skills and your gifts, okay? You could be the only reason why you're not ready yet. Number two, it says that he was not only skilled in playing, but he was a man of valor and a man of war. What I get out of this? Number two, be proficient in the art of war. Because now we're talking about places that God wants to take you. So you got to know how to fight. And we're not talking about in the natural realm, because spiritually, we don't fight in the natural realm. Why? Because the weapons of what? Are not what? They're not natural, okay? So you got to be prepared to fight spiritually. If David was not prepared, guess what? Those 15 to 20 years, he would have quit God. He would have quit God. The first time Saul threw a javelin at him and tried to kill him, he would be like, peace, God. I'm out of here like last year. He would have been like, for real? Hold on, what you mean? You mean on the way to the castle because you anointed me to be the next king, I ain't got nothing to eat right now? Yeah, holla God, I'm going back home, scrap all this stuff right here. You got people chasing me because I'm the next king. You got people want to cut my head off because I'm the next king. No, God, you can have all this right now. But he was ready spiritually. Yeah. The question I have for you, are you ready spiritually for the devils that's already planted at the place where you want to go? Are you ready for the ones who want to kill you? I'm not talking about naturally. Ain't nobody posted up with no gun unless you into some illegal stuff. But the God path, ain't nobody posted up with no gun. But guess what? There's some devils that want to steal your faith. And the question is, can you handle what comes? Are you prepared for the spiritual art of war? What do I have to do to get prepared, Pastor? One, you need to know the Word of God. You need to know the Word of God. Because if you plan on having $1 million business, guess what? There's going to come a point in time where the funds going to look real low. Could possibly come a time where the funds can look low and you got 7 employees you got to pay. And the first thought coming to your mind is take the savings and your passport and go to Mexico and don't come back. But you need to be able to quote the Word of God. You need to be able to say, God, you are a provider, Jehovah Jireh. You're able. You got to be able to say, okay, God, in James chapter 1, your word says, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God. How many of you have been able to quote that verse in the last 14 days? Huh? How many of you needed to be able to quote that verse in the last 14 days? When you was in a quandary, when you was in a pickle or perplexed situation, you need to be able to quote to God and say, hey, you said that if any man lack wisdom, then let him ask from you and you'll give liberally and upbraid. You won't hold back. That's his word. He can't lie. But if we don't have that teaching to him, you got to know the word to be able to fight. What else you got to do? You got to have a prayer life. You got to be praying and fasting. It got to be a part of your life. It can't just be something you did in January for 1 week or something you did in January for 30 days, but it needs to be a part of your life. This is how you fight spiritually. You use the Word of God. You pray and you fast. I'm telling you right now, it's about 17 of us in here right now that if we didn't have a prayer life and didn't know the scripture, we'd be out there going somewhere because of the stuff that we had to go through. It's not because we're so strong. I'm not standing here today because I'm so strong and mighty. I'm standing here because the Word of God is so strong and mighty. Because I wanted to quit a whole bunch of time, but the Word on the inside wouldn't let me. Be proficient in the art of war. Last, cultivate the fruit of the Spirit. Cultivate the fruit of the Spirit. Pastor, how in the world did you get that out of that? The last thing he said in verse 18 was what? What was the last thing he said about David? Somebody who still got your Bible open. What is the last thing he said? He said, what? The Lord is with him. He said the Lord is with him. How in the world did they see that the Lord was with him? The fruit of the Spirit. Nobody can see a glow on you. Just because you wear a cross does not mean that people can see the Lord with you. It's the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faithful, meekness. The question I have for you today is, can your co-workers see the God that's on the inside of you? Can the management team see the God that's on the inside of you? Can your customers see the God that's on the inside of you? Can the people who have the opportunity to promote you and bless you and put you up on level that you cannot put yourself on, can they see the God in you? You got to cultivate the gift so the Spirit can flow, and then somebody in the back room will be able to say that God is with them. I'm just challenging you this morning to embrace the path. David made it to the castle, but he, at this point, had yet to reach the throne, so he still wasn't there. In chapter 16, he'd been anointed, he done came out the field, yet even out the field, he still has not reached the throne. Keep reading the book of your life. God is going to make it happen. But right now, in the season when you're in the field, in the season when you're just in the castle, yet not on the throne, you got to be able to embrace the path. Trust God. Look up to heaven and say, God, I trust you. Stand to your feet and give God a praise right there.